Access to English. Turning Point by Michael Coles and Basil Lord.
Copyright Oxford University Press, 1977.
Chapter 1. Finding a Flat. Section 1. In this book, we shall be reading about a young married couple, Arthur and Mary Newton. They haven't been married for very long. In fact, they've just come back from their honeymoon. They've just come to London, as Arthur's about to start a course in management studies at the Earl's Court Polytechnic, and Mary's hoping to get a job as a secretary. Arthur and Mary both used to work in a library in Middleford, a medium-sized provincial town about 30 miles west of London. Mary's parents still live in Middleford. She's an only child. She has no brothers and sisters. Arthur's parents live in a country village called Applefield. Arthur has a sister called Jennifer. She's still at school, but will be leaving soon. This week, Arthur and Mary are staying at a flat which belongs to Richard and Cathy Steele. They're away in Italy for a couple of weeks. Richard is the son of Arthur and Mary's old boss. They'll be back on Saturday, so Arthur and Mary have to find their own flat very quickly. This is quite a problem for them, because furnished flats in London are not only difficult to find, but they're nearly always very expensive. Dialogue.
This one doesn't look too bad from the outside, does it, darling?
No, it's certainly better than that awful one we went to this morning. And it's nearer the shops, too.
It's about time we found something decent. I'm fed up with flat hunting. Do you realize this is the 8th flat we've looked at in 3 days?
I know, love. Never mind, though. We're bound to find something in the end.
The trouble is, the only decent ones we've seen are too pricey. I only wish we had a bit more money.
Well, come on. It's no good hanging about. Let's ring the bell and get it over with. Yes?
Good afternoon. We've come about the flat.
Oh, yes. It's Mr. and Mrs. Newton, isn't it? Well, the entrance is round the corner at the side of the house. If you'd like to go round, I'll just go and get the key.
The entrance is a bit squalid, isn't it? That door could do with a coat of paint for a start. Come to think of it, it's time the whole outside was done up. I hate to think what the inside's like.
Shh, she's coming. Now, be careful going up the stairs.
Oh, the carpet's a bit loose.
I'm afraid the flat needs doing up a bit. You see, the last tenants were students, and they didn't take much care of the place. Oh.
Yes. There's just one bedroom and a living room, isn't there?
Yes, that's right. It's through here. There are 2 single beds in at the moment, but I could change them for a double one.
I see. Is this the kitchen on the right here?
Yes. I wish it were a bit bigger for you, but there it is. I think it's got everything. The pots and pans are in this cupboard. The crockery and cutlery are in that dresser.
What about the living room?
Yes, here on the left.
Oh.
This is the bathroom, by the way.
Oh.
I've just had a new immersion heater put in. Here's the living room. It's a nice room, though it does need doing up. The carpet's a bit old, too. I wish I could give you a better one, but I can't at the moment.
Yes, it is a nice room. What do you think, Arthur?
Well, I'll leave you to think about it if you like. It's time I got my husband's dinner ready anyway. I'll be downstairs when you want me.
Well, it's quite cheap, and we could do things to it, I suppose.
Yes, and it's in quite a good neighbourhood. I like it, Arthur. Let's take it.
Yes, it's no good going on looking at hundreds of flats. Let's go and tell her.
Chapter 2. Working in an office. Section 1. A few days later, Arthur and Mary moved into their new flat. They spent the first week settling in. They had to spend quite a lot of money getting one or two things that were not provided, such as a bath mat, an alarm clock, reading lamps, and a number of extra kitchen utensils. So when Monday came, Mary decided that it was about time she went out and earned some money. She decided she didn't want to tie herself down to a regular job at this stage, so she went round to one of the many secretarial agencies in London to get herself a temporary job. At 10 o'clock, she walked into the Dover Street Bureau, where she was given a form to fill in. After doing this, she was interviewed by a smartly dressed middle-aged lady who read through her form, asked her a few questions, and then opened a drawer in a steel filing cabinet and took out a few cards with details of various jobs available. First, there was a job going with a large hotel company, but the hours for this didn't suit her. Then there was a job with a small firm, but this involved working in an office all on her own. Finally, there was a job in a travel agency working with a lot of people. This seemed ideal for her, as it was just round the corner from her flat. Mary told the interviewer she was very interested in the job at the travel agency. She was then asked when she was available, as they needed somebody urgently. So she was given an introduction card and went straight round to the travel agency. Dialogue.
Can I help you, madam?
Yes, I'm the new temp. The Dover Street Bureau sent me. I'm supposed to see Mr. Hughes.
Oh, well, look, you'd better go up to personnel. It's on the first floor. You can't miss it.
I see. Yes. Shan't be a minute, I'm on the phone. Now, George, we keep on getting letters about this, and I can't help feeling that there's something very wrong somewhere. Anyway, I've got to ring off now. There's somebody waiting to see me. Now, what can I do for you?
I'm from the Dover Street Bureau. Here's the card.
Ah, thanks. Let's see. You're Mrs. Newton, are you?
Yes, that's right.
Well, can you start straight away?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Hughes, if you want me to.
Ah, that's fine, then. Let's go along to Mr. Thomas in the tourist section. He'll be your new boss. I hope you'll enjoy working here. Have you ever worked in the travel business before?
No, I haven't, actually. Before I was married, I used to work in a library.
Here we are. Can you spare a minute, Larry? This is Mrs. Newton, your new secretary. This is Mr. Thomas.
Welcome to the madhouse, Mrs. Newton.
Oh, it's like that, is it?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Well, I must get back to the grind now. I'll leave Mrs. Newton in your capable hands.
Well, Mrs. Newton, here's your desk. That's your typewriter.
Oh, good. It's an electric one. I hate using the other kind.
Well, that's good. The last girl we had kept on complaining about it because she wasn't used to it. Now, let's think. We start at 9 and finish at 5:30. Your lunch is between 1 and 2. Now, can you do a bit of overtime sometimes?
Oh, I don't know. My husband detests doing his own cooking.
Haven't you trained him properly yet? But seriously, it won't be very often, and not more than a couple of hours at the outside.
Oh, well, that's all right then.
Look, there are one or two things I've put off doing. I've got one particularly urgent letter I can't delay getting off any longer. You'll find a notebook and pencil in the top drawer of your desk. If you could just take down this letter, it's to Mr. Featherstone.
Chapter 3. Higher Education. Section 1. At 9 o'clock on the 23rd of September, the first term of the new academic year started at Earl's Court Polytechnic. When Arthur arrived at the entrance hall, he saw a large notice informing new students that they were to assemble in the main hall for an address by the principal, Dr. Gibson. So Arthur made his way to the main hall, which was filled with students waiting to hear what the principal had to say. At 9:30 precisely, the principal hurried into the hall and onto the platform. He seemed to be a pleasant and efficient person, Arthur thought. He said that he was delighted to see so many intelligent-looking students, and that he hoped that they would all manage to profit from their various courses of study. He proceeded to give a brief outline of the history and organization of the Polytechnic, and then went on to give some general advice concerning their studies. A number of students, near where Arthur was sitting, appeared to be taking notes, so Arthur pretended to do the same. Dr. Gibson then introduced Mike Robinson, the president of the Students' Union, and sat down. Mike Robinson told them all about the activities of the union and announced that there was to be a meeting the following day. He hoped that everybody would be able to come. After that, the registrar, the librarian, the senior tutor, and the lodgings and welfare officer each said a few words, after which everybody left the hall. The next thing Arthur had to do was to register, which involved standing in a long queue and filling in a form. During the afternoon, he saw the head of the Department of Management Studies and his personal tutor, Mr. Trafford, who gave him his timetable and a list of books that he was expected to buy. He went to the college bookshop, although he couldn't afford to buy all the books on his list. Dialogue.
Are you home, darling?
Yes, I'm in the living room.
Hello. Good heavens. What a lot of new books.
Yes, and I was supposed to buy a lot more, but I could hardly afford to pay for these.
Hasn't your grant come through yet?
No, but I went to the office and they said they expect to have them tomorrow.
Haven't you got any money left then?
No, I haven't, I'm sorry to say.
Well, how did it go?
Well, in the morning, we had to listen to a lot of speeches from the principal and a few others.
I bet that was interesting.
And after that, I went up to the refectory. But quite frankly, I refused to eat the sort of food they dish up there. The smell was enough to make you sick.
As bad as that, was it?
So I went to a little cafe across the road. The place doesn't pretend to be marvellous, but at least the food's edible. Most of the people there seem to be from the college.
What were the other students like?
Well, I only talked to one or two. There was a chap from Manchester. He used to work in an estate agent's, and like me, he decided to have a go at the management course. In fact, I was glad to see there were quite a lot of older students there. But the others, the ones straight from school, seemed very young and immature.
Yes, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? What were the girls like?
I didn't speak to any, actually.
That's a likely tale. Did you have any classes at all?
No, we start tomorrow. I'm glad to say that I don't need to get there until 11 o'clock.
You don't seem to have done very much, do you?
Well, no. We saw our tutors in the afternoon, and they gave us stacks of bump about the course, timetables and so on.
How many hours a week do you have to do?
About 20, actually. But I'm sorry to say I've got one class between 4 and 5 on a Friday afternoon.
Oh, well, never mind. Do you want to have something to eat now?
Chapter 4. The Domestic Budget. Section 1.
One Saturday morning, several weeks later, Arthur found several letters on his doormat. All but one were in buff-coloured envelopes. This meant only one thing: bills. Arthur sat down to breakfast with rather a long face as he opened them, one after the other. The first was the electricity bill, over £20. The second was the final demand for the telephone, £13. Mary had been making many long-distance phone calls to her parents in Middleford. If she hadn't made these calls, the bill would have been much smaller. The third was from the local corner shop, where Mary had been running up a bill for groceries. Luckily, there was no gas bill, as there was a coin meter for gas in the flat. The fact was that Arthur had only enough money left in his bank account for 2 of the bills, and Mary had already spent half her week's wages on Friday night. There had been a sale at one of the department stores in Kensington High Street, and Mary had bought herself a new winter coat and had got 3 shirts and a pullover at bargain prices for Arthur. She had been very pleased with herself because she had saved such a lot of money on them, or so she said. If Mary had been there at that moment, she wouldn't have been pleased to hear Arthur's language. But she'd got up early and gone out shopping again.
Dialogue.
Oh, hello, darling. I bought you a present. I hope it fits you, but they said they'd change it if it's the wrong size.
Oh, no. You haven't been spending more money, have you?
Well, there was a good reduction on it, and if I hadn't gone there this morning, they'd have all been gone. What's the matter? Is there something wrong? I thought you'd be pleased.
Well, have a look at these bills, then. That's what's the matter.
Oh.
I don't know what we're going to do. If you hadn't spent all that money at the sales, we might have had a chance of paying them.
What do you mean, I spent all the money? Where's the rest of your grant gone, then?
I don't know. It's just gone.
Well, I like that. What would you have done if I hadn't been working? Tell me that. And what's more, when was the last time you bought me a present?
Now, come on, be fair.
It's all very well for you. If you'd made your mind up what you wanted to do earlier, we wouldn't have been in this situation.
Well, if I'd done that, we'd never have met, would we?
I wish we hadn't. If you're going to keep going on at me like this every time I go out shopping, I've a good mind to throw this pullover in the fire if you don't appreciate it.
Oh, don't be so ridiculous. Of course I appreciate it. It's just that...
Don't shout at me.
Who's shouting? All the neighbours can hear you.
I don't care about the neighbours.
What are you doing with that vase? No, please. Ouch! That hurt.
Are you all right, Arthur?
No, I'm bleeding.
Darling, I am sorry. Let me have a look. I promise I won't do it again. But if you hadn't been so rude to me, I wouldn't have thrown it.
That's all very well, but...
Stay there, darling. I'll go and get the elastoplast. It's nothing much. I'll kiss it better.
Chapter 5. Christmas. Section 1. The first term at the Earl's Court Polytechnic seemed to go by very quickly, and in no time at all it was the Christmas vacation. Mary took a couple of weeks off, so that both of them could go to Arthur's home in Applefield for Christmas itself, and to Mary's parents in Middleford for the New Year. On the first Monday of the vacation, Mary did all their Christmas shopping in Oxford Street. The following day, they caught the 8:30 train from Paddington to Applefield. The weather was unusually cold. It started snowing while Arthur and Mary were on the train, and by the time they arrived, it was already 3 inches deep. It continued snowing for the rest of the day, and Mrs. Newton said it looked like being a real old-fashioned Christmas. Arthur's sister Jennifer hadn't yet arrived home. She had just left school and was training to be a nurse in one of the London teaching hospitals. It was impossible for her to get away until Christmas Eve. Mrs. Newton loves having all her family around her at this time. She couldn't bear to think of Christmas without them. On Christmas Eve, Jennifer arrived in time to help the others, who were busy wrapping up presents to put round the Christmas tree. In the evening, a number of people called round to the Newtons to wish them all a Merry Christmas, so everybody had a jolly evening. They all continued talking until well past midnight, and finally went to bed. On Christmas morning, everyone got up rather late, except for Mrs. Newton, who got up at 8 o'clock to start to prepare the Christmas dinner. She had to stuff the turkey and put the Christmas puddings on the stove, as they take a long time to cook. Jennifer, Arthur and Mary went round to see 1 or 2 friends in the village about midday, and got back home at about 2:30. At 3 o'clock, everybody listened to the Queen's speech on television. Immediately after this, Mrs. Newton brought the turkey in, and Dr. Newton started to carve it. Then everybody sat down to their Christmas dinner, after which they all opened their presents. The rest of the day was spent in a very relaxed way. Dr. Newton fell asleep in his favourite armchair, while Mary and Jennifer did the washing up. The day ended very quietly. Dialogue.
Would anybody like another turkey sandwich? What about you, dear?
No, thanks. I couldn't bear to eat another thing.
Or anybody else, then? You, Jack? Jennifer? Arthur?
Not for me, thanks.
No, thanks, I couldn't.
No, thank you, Mother.
I always think Boxing Day is a bit of an anticlimax, don't you, Mary?
Yes, I suppose it is, really.
I remember when Jennifer and Arthur were little. We always used to go to a pantomime on Boxing Day. Jennifer used to love to go up to London and see all the lights.
Yes, that's right. Funny thing, you know, Mary. When they got their presents at Christmas, Jennifer always preferred playing with Arthur's trains and things to playing with dolls and teddy bears.
Oh, rubbish, Daddy. Anyway, Arthur used to play with my doll's house.
Oh,
Tell you what, I think I'll do a spot of washing up now.
Oh, don't bother doing that now. We can leave that till tomorrow morning.
is there anything decent on the box?
Let's see. I'll just have a look in the paper. Well, there's A Christmas Carol on BBC One. Some awful American musical on ITV. I personally don't intend watching either of those.
What about BBC Two?
Experiments in Atonal Harmony by the New Century String Quartet.
Oh.
How does that grab you, Jennifer?
Oh, no, I couldn't bear listening to that. Why not play some records?
Oh, that's a good idea. I've got Johnny Jingo's latest LP. I'll go and get it.
Heaven preserve us, I can't stand any of that sort of stuff. I wouldn't mind watching the musical, actually. Isn't it Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire?
Actually, it's about half over, Dad.
I want to listen to the record Arthur gave me. It's overtures from the Gilbert and Sullivan operas.
I know. Let's have a game of cards.
I'm not playing cards. I want to listen to Johnny Jingo.
Well, nobody else does. That's just typical of you.
Well, you lot can continue to argue all night for all I care. I'm going to bed.
Chapter 6. Sickness and Health. Section 1.
On the third day of the second term at the Earl's Court Polytechnic, Arthur came home in the evening looking pale and tired. He told Mary that he'd felt terrible all day. First of all, he'd had a headache since about 10 o'clock in the morning. He'd tried taking a couple of aspirins, but they didn't seem to have had any effect. He'd also had a cough for several days, and now his chest felt painful. He couldn't remember feeling as bad as this. He didn't want to do anything. All he wanted to do was to go to bed, and this he did. The next morning, Arthur was no better. Before Mary went to work, she rang up the doctor and asked him to call at the flat. She told Arthur that she would come home for lunch. This was no problem, as her office was only just round the corner. She told Arthur to try and keep warm and to drink as much as possible. At 12:15, there was a ring at the doorbell, so Arthur staggered out of bed, put on his dressing gown, and made his way to the door. It was Dr. Dixon, the local GP. The first thing the doctor did was to make Arthur go back to bed. Then he stuck his thermometer under his tongue. When he took it out, he exclaimed, "You've got quite a temperature there. Now, let's examine your chest." Dr. Dixon produced his stethoscope from his bag and started listening to Arthur's breathing. Finally, he said, "I'm afraid you might be suffering from pneumonia. You'd better go into hospital. That is, if I can manage to get you a bed. May I use your phone?"
Dialogue.
Excuse me. Could you tell me the way to the men's medical ward, please?
Yes, go up in the lift at the end of this corridor. It's on the second floor on the right as you come out of the lift.
Thank you. There you are, darling. Are you feeling any better now?
Well, a little bit, perhaps. Anyway, it's nice to see you.
Here, I've brought you some fruit and a bottle of lime juice.
Oh, thanks.
Well, what's it like here? And what have they been doing to you?
Well, it's not so bad, I suppose. They've stuck lots of needles into me and given me a couple of different sorts of pills. Oh, yes. And I had a chest X-ray earlier this afternoon, just after I came in.
Good. They seem to be doing things for you. Did they tell you how long you're likely to be here?
I did ask, but they said it was too early to say.
Well, they can't keep you in for very long. What else have you been doing?
Well, I've been talking to the chap in the next bed. His name's Trevor. He took the same course as I'm doing, and he's a sales manager now. He's in here with an ulcer.
Well, I'd love you to get on, but I'm not very thrilled at the idea of you getting an ulcer. Oh, by the way, I meant to bring you a couple of your textbooks so that you could have caught up with your work. You must be missing quite a lot by being here.
Good grief. I can't have missed all that much. I've only been here 5 minutes. I honestly don't feel like studying right now. I suppose that's quite a good idea, though. I might feel a bit more like it tomorrow.
Okay. I'll try not to forget to bring them next time. Oh, and is there anything else that you particularly want?
Yes. You might bring a couple of packets of peppermints or something. Having a bad chest means going without cigarettes, and I need some sort of substitute.
Yes, if you just can't smoke for a few days, you might as well try to give it up altogether.
Chapter 7. Home Decoration. Section 1.
When Arthur had recovered from his illness, it was almost time for the Easter vacation. Mary had been complaining about the dirty walls and paintwork, especially in the kitchen. So Arthur, in a rash moment, volunteered to do out the kitchen and the living room, which was almost as bad as the kitchen. On the Saturday before the Easter weekend, Arthur and Mary went to the local do-it-yourself shop. First, Mary spent ages thumbing through the wallpaper catalogues in the shop, while Arthur wandered around looking at all the power tools and other gadgets he wished he could afford. Eventually, Mary told Arthur she hadn't seen anything she liked. Arthur was quite pleased about this, as he didn't really want to do any papering. He told Mary that he thought it was too difficult for him to do, and that he would much rather paint the walls. That evening, while Mary was preparing the evening meal, Arthur decided to pop across the road to the Ship and Shovel, where he had a quiet drink, and talked to some people he knew about his plans for decorating his flat. One of his friends, a man with an Irish accent called Paddy, knew of a shop in Ealing, a suburb in West London, that was going out of business and selling paint at bargain prices. Paddy offered to collect the paint in his van, since Arthur didn't have a car, and deliver it as soon as he could. He said he would also bring his overalls, in case Arthur needed any help. In the meantime, Arthur started working on the kitchen. The walls and ceiling were rather dirty, so first they had to be washed down thoroughly with a strong detergent. This, together with the job of filling the holes and cracks in the wall surface, took up the time until Paddy was due to deliver the paint.
Dialogue.
That's the doorbell, Arthur. I expect it's your friend with the paint.
Can you let him in, please, Mary? I'm in the middle of filling these cracks in the wall here, and the wretched stuff keeps falling out. And what's more, my hands are covered in the stuff.
So is the floor. All right, then. I'll go.
Good morning. Is Arthur in?
It's Paddy, is it?
Yes, that's me.
Well, do come in. Arthur's been expecting you. He's in the kitchen. Can I give you a hand with those cans of paint?
No, that's all right. I can manage.
Oh, hello, Paddy. You've brought the paint, I see.
Yes, they had what you asked for. Hey, what are you doing with that filler? You've got as much of it on the floor as you have on the wall.
Well, as fast as I put it in, it falls out again. I must be doing something wrong, I suppose.
Well, you've got it too wet, haven't you? You can't use it as wet as that.
All right. I'll make it thicker and start again. But I'd better go and wash my hands first. Shan't be a minute.
What sort of paint have you brought, Paddy?
Well, there are 4 cans here. These 2 small ones are the gloss and the undercoat for your woodwork. That should be enough, unless you decide to give it 2 coats. And these 2 big ones are the emulsion for your walls and ceiling. I hope the colour's okay.
Oh, yes, that's the colour, all right.
Right, let's try again.
Arthur, you've trodden that stuff all over the sitting room carpet. It'll take me absolutely ages to get it all off.
Well, I think it's time I was off.
I think I've managed to get the carpet clean at last. I'm just going to put some newspaper down in case you make any more mess.
Sorry again, but could you just give me a hand first? I'm ready to start painting. If you could just hand me up the paint tray and the roller when I get to the top of the steps.
All right, but be careful.
Of course I'll be careful. Now, can I have the roller first? Thanks. And now the tray.
Isn't there rather a lot of paint in it?
No, I don't think so.
That roller, it looks a bit too wet to me.
No, it's all right. I've watched my father do this a few times, you know, and he never spills a drop. There. That looks quite good.
But you splashed paint all over my dress and on the floor. I'll have to go and take it off and soak it before it dries. Oh, dear.
Mary, the sitting room carpet. There's paint on your shoes. Oh, no.
Chapter 8. An Evening Out. Section 1.
Shortly after Arthur had redecorated the kitchen, he and Mary were sitting at home one evening when he suddenly realized that it was Mary's birthday in 3 days' time. It occurred to him that she might like to go out somewhere to celebrate the occasion, perhaps to a show or something, with dinner afterwards. Mary was delighted when he put this idea to her. She'd had a suspicion that Arthur might actually have forgotten all about her birthday. They'd been in London for several months, and not once had they managed so far to go to the theatre. What was more, they had no idea what was on. As it was Sunday, they had a couple of Sunday papers, so they turned to the page advertising entertainments. Arthur looked at the Observer, while Mary went through the list in the Sunday Times. Arthur asked Mary if she'd rather go to a ballet, a musical show, or a straight play. Mary said that she wasn't sure. She would rather look at all the possibilities and make her mind up later on. First of all, she thought that she might like to see Robert Morley, who was appearing in A Ghost on Tiptoe. She had seen him play in some comedy or other a few years ago on a day out in London with her mother. She couldn't remember the title of the play. Then she wondered whether she might like to see the Royal Shakespeare Company performing A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Old Vic. She had done the play as a set book for O-level English literature at school. She had once seen it performed by an enthusiastic but somewhat incompetent amateur company at her local church hall in Middleford. In the end, she told Arthur she'd leave the decision up to him. So the following day, Arthur went round to the local ticket agency and found that on Mary's birthday there were very few theatres where there were any reasonably priced seats still available. If he had gone to the agency earlier, there might have been more choice. But now the only practical proposition was the Jack Seagrave show at the Victoria Palace. This was a kind of music and variety entertainment, with the centre of attraction being the popular comedian Jack Seagrave.
Dialogue.
Come on, Mary. It's the interval now, and if we don't get to the bar pretty quickly, we'll never get a drink.
Well, I've got to go to the ladies first, actually.
Okay. Tell me what you want, and I'll see you there. The bar, I mean, not the ladies.
Oh, dear, I'm not sure, really.
Come on, Mary, make up your mind. Half the audience has got there already by now. I'd rather not have to spend the whole interval queuing.
I think I'd like a sweet sherry. Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm rather thirsty, so I think I'd rather have a lager. Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Now, hurry up. Oh, dear. You might have made up your face afterwards. I've never seen so many people all waiting to be served at once. Anyway, I've managed to get us a drink each.
Yes, it is very crowded, isn't it?
What do you think of the show so far?
Yes, very good. I liked that conjurer chap, didn't you? I couldn't for the life of me see how he managed to get that pound note into the envelope the man was holding, after we'd seen him burn it, too.
I suppose he might have had it up his sleeve.
What did you think of Jack Seagrave himself? I thought he was terrific.
Yes, I thought he was very funny. But I've already heard him tell some of those stories on television.
They were funny, weren't they? I couldn't quite understand that one he told about the two young ladies who had the same milkman, though. What did he mean when he said...
Not now, Mary. I'll explain it to you later.
And I simply adored the little man with a funny walk.
Oh, yes. Wasn't he funny? I've seen him doing that on the television, too. But it's much better when you see him doing it in the flesh.
Did you like the man that juggled with the plates?
Not especially. I've seen so many jugglers doing similar things recently that I got a bit bored with it.
I bet you couldn't do it, though.
No. I break plates every time you ask me to help you wash up. In fact, now you come to mention it, considering how many I've broken recently, wouldn't you rather I didn't help you?
What a thing to talk about when we're on a night out. Hey, why has everybody left all of a sudden?
Didn't you hear the bell ring?
Oh.
That means the curtain's going up again any second. Come on, finish your drink. We'll never find our seats again if the house lights are out, and besides, we'll disturb everybody, apart from missing some of the show.
Okay. I can't finish this anyway. Would you like to finish it for me?
No, thanks. I'd sooner we got straight back.